Everybody, welcome back to the Quiet Time podcast. I have a special guest, Johnny Sirpilla, somebody that I connected with through a mutual friend. Johnny is a business owner. He's somebody who has a great spirit, great personality, and I know he has some great things to share with you entrepreneurs, you business leaders, you athletes, anybody just looking for encouragement, anybody looking for a different perspective on life. I know Johnny has that in just the few conversations that we have had. So Johnny, welcome to the Quiet Time podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Benny. Thank you so much for having me on. And I got to say, before we get into all the good stuff, there's two things that I want to share with you, two thoughts as we get started here. One is that I love the name of your podcast, The Quiet Time, right? Love it. And it is so needed right now. And I think that title alone will draw people in. And for me, I'm an anxious guy. I worry a lot. I push really hard. I want peak performance always. I'm always striving and pushing. And I also have a hard time saying no to opportunities, even though my plate is incredibly full, to engage with quality people on different opportunities that can drive and create good change out there for people and to help people. And so, when I think oftentimes in my head, I need quiet time and I need that opportunity to just reflect. And, your podcast is doing that. I went back and listened to several of them, and I just love the theme that you're going down. And so really cool on the name. So I want to thank you for that. And the second thing, you and I share a connection that you don't know.
Oh, what's that?
All right. So June of 1991 was special to both of us. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you were born in June of 91, and I was on my honeymoon in June of 91 when you were born, actually. So I got married the week before you were born, almost 30 years ago. And, I think about that as I was, honeymooning with my wife and of almost 30 years now. And we're dreaming about what our life could be. And, on your honeymoon, you're talking about, all the different scenarios that life can give you. And I think we could truly say we could never comprehend really all that came our way in blessings and in loss and in struggles. And but we made a choice on that honeymoon to talk about how we're going to attack and handle whatever comes our way. And we're going to bind together. And so that happened for me back in June of 91. And who knows, maybe when my wife and I were having those very talks, it was right the day that you came, into this world for you to start making a difference.
Hey, the world always aligns us in some way, some shape or form. And going back to what you said about the Quiet Time podcast, the reason why I call it the Quiet Time podcast was actually because of, when I was at Michigan State, when we would go through training camp, in training camps every day, the days are long, they get monotonous, everything is always the same. Coach D, every morning, we would have a quiet time section in our winner's manual where we would spend 15 minutes reading quotes, reading a passage to inspire us for the day, whether it be discipline, whether it be mindset, whether it be handling adversity, handling success, just to start our day off like that. Because usually we're just, like you said, sometimes our plates are just so full and we never take time for ourselves just to sit and just be and just reflect. And that reflection piece is what I heard you touch on when you said that sometimes we just don't say no. And I'm finding that out as an entrepreneur, is that you'll burn yourself out if you don't give yourself some me time. So I'm glad you shared that to start. And I'm glad the universe has aligned us, you getting married in June and me being born in June of 91. That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. And you just touched on, one of the things that I love most about the game of football, and I get exposed to a lot of great things, being on the board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and in the new board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Health. And I get so excited, though, about what you just said there, that when you were at Michigan State, how it changed you with that quiet time. And in the game, teaching you a lot more than just X's and O's, and teaching you life lessons. And that's what I love about the youth programs, the right people coaching, making an influence and making a difference and realizing the way that they can shape these young men's lives at whatever age they're playing at and whatever level they're playing at. And look how that happened for you at Michigan State. So that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk, since you just brought that up, let's talk about you being on the NFL board, the Hall of Fame board, right?
Right, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Yeah, so not the NFL, but the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I've served on that board for a number of years, and now we're just doing some really exciting things that, our president and CEO, David Baker, is just a great visionary, and he saw many opportunities to bring the excellence that we celebrate at the Hall into other arenas, and one of those is Hall of Fame Health. And so I was asked to serve on the Hall of Fame Health Board in addition to the Pro Football Hall of Fame Board. And in that Hall of Fame Health Board, we have a couple of different areas that we're focusing on. And one is Hall of Fame benefits, where we're bringing benefits to retired players of the game. And so we're ensuring that they have the best affordable and best quality benefits available to them in their zip code where they're residing post-retirement. And we have a full national program that helps players find what they need there. So if you go to hofbenefits.com, players that are listening can find out more about that. And also we have Hall of Fame Performance Health. And Hall of Fame Performance Health is with another company that I'm involved in. I'm CEO of a company called the Metabolic Code. And we are having Hall of Fame Performance Health centers across the country. We have 12 health systems right now that have signed on board, and we have some other exciting initiatives to announce in the future where we can work with elite athletes and peak performers. And so we have a medical advisory board that has Dr. Drew Dossett, who was the head of the Cowboys organization on their medical staff for a number of years. He's created an amazing medical board for Hall of Fame Health. And then on the performance health side, we have a group of elite trainers that have been put together. That is, really exciting to see what we're doing there to make a difference and impact not only players' lives, but our program as well as our benefits are available to everyone out in the marketplace. So we have NFL players bringing our Hall of Fame benefits packages out to contacts and businesses that they know, and something we could talk more about later. And then also an opportunity for those employers to bring these Hall of Fame level benefits with great coaching from nutritionists and specialty nurses and docs directly to those on the coverage. So a lot of exciting things happening there at the Hall.
You just have a lot of great things going on. And, on the Quiet Time podcast, we have entrepreneurs, CEOs such as yourself, athletes, and we talk about mindset. But what you just explained to me is that you had a vision for something big. How did you get involved in these businesses? What was your real passion and your purpose behind that? Because I hear a passion and a purpose when I hear you explain that, the importance of benefits, the importance of peak performance, and, just conversations that we've had on the phone. Where did that purpose or that vision, where did that come from, or what was behind all that?
That's a great question. I would first probably have to say, to go back a bit in my career, and then something that just happened 4 years ago is that, I was born into the RV industry. My dad was a pioneer in the RV industry with one of the first dealerships in the 1950s. I took over the family business in 1989 and really grew that. We were named the number one dealer in the country. And then I sold it to a roll-up strategy at the time to a company called Camping World back in 2003. And so I was blessed to be on the senior executive team and served as the president and chief business development officer for Camping World, and just worked with incredible people that became family to me over a 15-year period. And shortly after our IPO, is when I realized that God had it on my heart that it was time to go. Our IPO happened on my 50th birthday. So it was a pretty cool 50th birthday. But I was very focused on my son. My youngest son at the time was a high school quarterback, and it was Friday Night Lights. And I was just ready to leave the New York Stock Exchange floor and get on my flight and get back home for high school football. And it really, in reflection, there was more than that I needed to. It was time to go, not just time to go to the game, but time to go. And so, when I retired, I prayed about what I was going to do. And now that I was grown up, I got to pick my own career. I'm 50 years old. I get to do really what I really want to do. And at some point, Benny, you're going to have that time in life where you say, okay, now my passion that I did, what God gave me skills to do, now what is it that I want to do the rest of my life? And I felt that was upon me. And literally, I prayed on the verse in Thessalonians, so encourage one another and lift each other up, just as in fact you are doing. And I thought, I like encouraging other people. I like lifting other people up. And so that's the name of my company, Encourage. And encourage33.com is my website. And in that company, what I've done is all the various businesses that I've invested in, dozens of businesses over the years, I've put them into different buckets, if you will, or business lines, if you will. So I have Encourage Healthy Living, which is anything in the healthy living space. I have Encourage Investments, which are just all kind of investments that I'm passionate about. Many of them are in the medical space. Clyra Medical is one of those companies that I'm involved in, and just passionate because they're an amazing hospital-grade disinfectant that adapted itself to become a personal protection spray that kills SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID-19. And so you spray it on your masks, and it's safe for skin, and it's an amazing product that is really saving lives today. Another company, TecTraum, which we're the only medical trial going on in the world today. We're in phase 2 of a medical trial on concussion therapy. So certainly something that touches another area of my life that I'm passionate about in football, is in any sport that can cause concussion. So, I started to go down the path, and Encourage Healthy Living, and Encourage Investments, and Encourage Leadership is my brand, where I'm on various boards, public company boards, private company boards, as some of the ones I just mentioned, public company board, LCI, that I am on, a couple $1 billion a year revenue company. But they are leading the edge in manufacturing on creating change management in a corporate culture that thrives on individual peak performance and coaching to leaders and servant leadership and just amazing qualities. So I get involved in a lot of that in my Encourage Leadership side, and being on a lot of boards and doing public speaking. And then the final channel there is Encourage Adoption. So we had a rough time starting a family, and our first 3 children passed away. We had triplets that would be almost 26 years old today. And they died on the night that they were born. We had 2 sons and a daughter, and that led us to the path of adoption of our oldest child. Bo is adopted, and then God surprised us in 19 months with 2 pregnancies, and that's our daughter Bella and Stone. So in less than 4 years, we had 3 kids, and it looked like this ideally perfectly planned family. And it was really just a lot of blessings thrown at us. So that's what Encourage is about. And I'm at that stage of my life where I want to rediscover myself. I want to reinvent myself to continually challenge myself to my best self and to what is ahead of me, where I can grow and help others and be involved in meaningful projects and programs that can make a difference.
I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, just your perspective, your view on life and how you got started. And what really spoke to me is that you want to serve other people and you want to encourage other people. And that's kind of what I'm finding out, as you had mentioned, sometimes like when my football career is done, I still have a lot of life left to live. And, you said you at 50, you figured out what you really wanted to do. And, playing football has been very fun and very, very rewarding. And by no means am I giving up because of this shoulder surgery, but there is life to start thinking about. like after football and what that will look like, and being a father and having my own business, and somebody that I can connect with, like such as yourself, just to bounce ideas off of and just get inspired by, and just know that I'm on the right path because I want to serve other people and coach other people, not for football, but performance. And what you really said that resonated with me the most was that you're always looking for ways to reinvent yourself, rediscover yourself, and push yourself to just be better. It reminds me of something Sean Payton said to us back when I was a couple weeks ago. And he said, we're always in a constant race to improve. And he wasn't talking about just the team. He was talking about personally as well as a team. And that sounds like what you're on. You're always constantly trying to improve.
We have to. I'll tell you, because life is continually handing us different cards that in a hand that we've never played before, right? And so 2020 is a perfect example of that. And I'm a big believer, in a number of other podcasts I've talked about this, in reframing our thoughts, because as we are dealing with something new. 2020 has provided a lot of that for us. We have choices to make in terms of how we look at the situation and how we think about it. I was asked to speak at a conference last week called Women in Boards, and it's encouraging women to seek professional roles in public or private boards. And it was an honor to address that group and be in small sessions with them. And I talked in that group about the idea of, reframing their thoughts on being the only. You hear that today, where it could be the only woman in the room, or the only person of color in the room, or any other way that distinguishes us. And, the discussion opened up that, have you been an only before, and how did that feel? And the comments from, some very skilled and intelligent and professional women was the challenge that it was to be in the only. And I said to the team on that call, there was about 100 different female executives. And I said, what I'd ask you to think about is, looking for that opportunity to say, yes, I'm the only. This is incredible. I'm not a minority in this situation. I'm an only in this situation that has my perspective and my point of view. And I think that God's given me a lot of experiences in my life where typically in conversation, I'm the only or the minority who has lost a child. And my wife and I lost 3, infants at birth. And that gives me perspective. That gives me insight. And as you talked about one day being a father, Benny, that drove me to realize the blessing it was to become a dad, and how seriously I'm going to take that role of being a dad. And so, I'm honored that situation came into our lives, because I choose to be honored by Nicholas, Mary, and Peter's life for that short day. I could choose to look at it as the tragedy that wrecked my marriage, killed my faith, destroyed any hope I had for my future. Or I can choose to look at it as a blessing that I got to experience joy, because there was absolute joy while they were alive, and understanding tragedy and understanding how it can redefine how I want to look at tough situations. And so, from that, I would say in a lot of cases, I'm the only dad that would have, in certain circles that I'm in, that experience. And I don't want to change that. As awful as it was, and I don't want to dismiss at all or diminish anybody that has gone through child loss. It devastated our lives. We spent a couple years in therapy, and we spent every day at a cemetery for a long time. But there is still joy in our sorrow, and we have to find that. And so, I said to that group of women with encouragement about going in shoulders back, head held high, of being that only, and using your voice, and not using your brand as a female executive or as a Black female executive, or as a Black male executive, whatever that might be, as a brand, just because we're branded we like to brand in a certain way, but to do it because we're really good at something. And I think, a brand is very important, what you show, but what's more important than your brand or what makes you an only is your talent and your skills and what you're really, really good at. And then there's so much to celebrate, and people want to listen. They want to hear from you. And it's my belief that people want to hear from you and listen when you have a unique perspective and you deliver it with intelligence and confidence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I hear what you said to this group of women about them being the only, and I think that is a good perspective. I felt like I've had that perspective before, but now I've started to shift towards, I was watching something on Mind Valley, and one of the ladies was explaining that we're always trying to, sometimes when we have a fear of something, that we're always trying to say that I'm different or I'm the only one, instead of saying, really, we are there's somebody out there just like us and looking for that inspiration. I remember when I was in college, I'm different. I think different. Not really. I mean, you have some different perspectives, but there are some people that think just like me or have had a similar path, and we should kind of look to those people for inspiration as well. But also, like you said, embrace that you're the only one. I think it's just so many different ways that you can see it, but embrace it with the positive possibilities or that optimistic outlook. How does that land for you?
I love, as you're saying, about embracing it, because, I think that when you voice your views that might be contrary or might be different to the norm, for me, I'm a full-blooded Italian. I'm a very emotional dad. I cry easily. I see the opportunity of something in my kids or a beautiful interaction between the three of them, or between them with their mother or them with me. And man, I just want to hold on to it. I'll get emotional. I want to talk about it and really just love that moment. And I like being different I don't want to play the guy of a tough dad. I am authentically who I am. I feel deeper than a lot of men. That doesn't make me better than them in any way. It makes me just who I am. In many ways, it's tougher because I carry a lot of that with me. It creates anxious thoughts at times because I want to make sure that my fatherhood is at its best. And that revealed itself when, we had our oldest son, Bo, and, we meet him at a day old, and right away in my anxious mind, I'm racing through all these things I want to teach my boy, and how God gave us another chance at parenthood. And even better, through the blessing of someone else, that the opportunity was for God to pair Bo with us. And it was, biology. I was handed Nicholas, Mary, and Peter when my wife delivered them, and I was handed our son Bo by an adoption worker. And either way, somebody handed me a soul and a new baby that I had never seen before, and it's instantly your baby. And so I right away I started thinking, how do I let Bo know, and then maybe other kids that we adopt later or could have, how do I let them know how incredible they are and how much they mean to me? And I started a love letter. And I wrote a love letter to each of my kids throughout every year of their life. And on their 18th birthday, I had it bound in a book. And, each one is probably 250 pages, single spaced, typed love letter to my kids on each year of their life until they were 18. And in doing that, I was an only, if you will, right? I was a different type of dad, that when my kids took their books to college with them, because they loved them so much, and they had them sitting out, and their friends would say, what's this? Because, it's the blessing of being Bo Sirpilla's dad, and the gift of being Bella Sirpilla's dad, and the joy that God made me Stone Sirpilla's dad, right? It's these three different big, 8.5 by 11 books that are thick and filled with pictures and a lot of text and stories. kids asking, your dad wrote this, and I'm not a good reader, and I'm a fair writer, but not a good reader. But I wanted them to know what was on my heart at every stage of their life through their childhood, and so that was something that meant a lot to me, and so I put my shoulders up, and maybe I got some teasing from my buddies along the way that Johnny's on a business trip again, and he's typing and writing, and he's making us look bad as dads. But I was like, fellas, you go ahead and laugh at me, but my kids, there's nothing more important than them knowing my heart and how I feel about them. So it's embracing who you are and embracing being that only, and I think that's an important message out there today, because being unique and different and not like a peer group can just give an opportunity for your platform to shine. And I would tell you, Benny, that when you decide and your body decides and your agent and your coaches decide that it's time for you to fully embrace your entrepreneurial spirit, there's so many greats ahead of you that have left the NFL and gone on to amazing, impactful careers. And I get the blessing of interacting with many of them. And I think that that's when you embrace, okay, this season of life that I'm in, it's a new season. And this is what I want to have come out of it. And I think a lot of men at times don't really fully think through that and think it from their heart and think about the impact to others. So there's great leaders out there like John Maxwell. He's the world's most published author on leadership, and it's all about servant leadership. And John Maxwell taught that to me. I've had the privilege of being in his company a number of times and shared meals with him and learned from him and that wisdom. There's so much of that out there that if we're not soaking that up for each new season of our life, just because I was 50 and had done pretty well so far, doesn't mean that it was time to coast. It really meant for me that it was time to dial it up and challenge myself and put myself in new situations where I'm now even serving as the leader of a company with everybody in the company knowing more about the space than me. And it's going to rely on my leadership. But I love surrounding myself with people smarter than me and more talented than me. And I think I've done that my whole life. Absolutely.
And that's something that, when you speak to that part, that really resonates, because I saw something or saw a quote or something, I'm always trying to get better at something or trying to develop. And they said, if you're the most interesting one in the room, you're in the wrong room. And, when I'm around these people, I've had the privilege, because I'm being, great friends with Draymond. Like, I've been in the room with the LeBron Jameses, the guys on Facebook, these guys. That's where I really learn the most. And being in those rooms where I'm not the most interesting person is always the most fun and most fulfilling for me. Because I don't want to, first of all, nobody knows all the answers, but I don't want to know all the answers. I want to continue to learn. And that learning, even I'm learning from you right now, just as we're talking in this casual conversation about things that I would want to do for the kids that I don't have yet. But I just think that's so incredible, that the fact that you embraced who you were and just you as a father. I think, people are going to take a lot away from this podcast, man. I really appreciate you sharing this stuff. Is there anything else you would like to leave the audience with?
Well, you know what? Just along the lines of what you just said, Benny, because I think that's what's the great thing about these exchanges back and forth in the podcast format is that, being in a room and recognizing who's around you and the people that are different than you and unique and special, and you soak that energy in. I would say that today, uniquely and authentically who Johnny Sirpilla is, I don't know, that maybe has a question mark in my mind because I feel like I'm the sum of so many great interactions like this with thoughtful people, people of depth and interest and diversity and new thoughts and different thoughts than my own, that each time I walk away and I recognize, like you said, that when I was in those rooms, and whether it was just colleagues in business, but I was able to listen to them and say, they've got something there that I like. And they've got an energy and a spirit about them that I need more of that in me. And so in many regards, I emulated that. I grabbed it. I sought after it. and I brought it in. So today, who I am, it's a combination of thousands of people that have impacted me that I saw bits and pieces. So when they say to be authentic, your authentic self, I subscribe to that. But I also say, if your authentic self is jealous and, devious and negative, well, don't be that authentic self. I mean, there's
Right.
nothing good about that, right? And I think we can all, say that we've known people that their authentic self was just a chip on their shoulder and unhappy. So I'd like to think that my authentic self is just a guy that wants to be a sponge and learn off of other men and women from diverse backgrounds, from similar backgrounds, so that I could see what did I miss in, we walked the same path and I missed this. People in diverse backgrounds that I never walked that path. And so what did I miss there because I never got to be in those shoes? And that's what my authentic self is want to soak up from others. And it's not really about my DNA and who specifically I was raised to be, although I had the blessing of committed parents that loved me and loved my sisters and taught us integrity and responsibility and hard work and all those things. So I was blessed with that foundation. But my parents didn't close my mind to our way is the only way. And so I'd leave your listeners with that, is to soak up the goodness that are out there from other people today, and really to push out the hate. Bring in the love thoughts that lift you up, the hate thoughts that bring you down. It doesn't mean in that hate message there isn't a value, but spin that and reframe that so it's a love message where there's a greater value and impact to other people, because that's what we all need from each other right now. We need it desperately. And I appreciate you creating this podcast to share your thoughts and what's on your heart right now, because there's a lot of special things brewing for your future.
Appreciate you, Johnny. Thank you so much for being on the Quiet Time podcast.
Truly my privilege.